In this episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I sit down with Matt Lloyd, who has created Terminus Breach Tower Defense board game, to talk all about this tower defense game that just barely reached its funding goal last night before running into the 48-hour mark. So find out what he's learned in his last 3 runs on Kickstarter with this great game. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is proudly being powered by Syther Gaming's Overbattle. That is a tabletop space warfare 4X refined game that will be available via the Kickstarters come the 19th of March. It sounds like the Giveaway Geek will be doing some giveaways in regards to this. Plus, there's going to be a lot of hype. So look for Overbattle from Syther Gaming everywhere you can see about gaming, and you'll probably run into it somewhere. I saw the Unfiltered Gamer play it the other day, and the game looks amazing. So be on the lookout at your Kickstarters come this March for Overbattle from Syther Gaming.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Welcome to Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Glad you could make it. This is going to be kind of quick Kickstarter Corner so we can get into the meat of Matt Lloyd's campaign that is finishing up on Kickstarter. So we'll just go ahead and dive straight in, okay, peoples?
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaves computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leaves.
Well, there's a couple great games on the Kickstarters currently. We'll bring you a couple of those, but it's usually slow this time of year. But we're going to be launching into a new year. That means new Kickstarter games. Is that one of those yours? Do you want to hear about it on Getting Geeky with Game Relief? Make sure you go ahead and send me a message on Facebook at Getting Geeky with Game Relief, or on the email over at gamerelief@gamereliefgo.com so we can connect. But let's go ahead and see what is on the Kickstarters, at least in our Kickstarter Corner today, okay? A new thing in history, because I don't know if this ever happened on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, but we actually show up in all 3 of these games in their updates, so you'll be able to catch an interview from Getting Geeky with Game Relief myself. First off, we've got Natural Selection. It's a fun educational board game that's suited for players of all ages, a game of dominance, survival, and sentience, in which it's survival of the fittest. You get to be an omnivore, a herbivore, or a carnivore to be able to pick how to win the game. And we showed up in the first update called Interview with Game Relief, so go listen to that and see if this be something that you're interested in. Next is the Final Flicktier relaunch. This game in which you boldly go where no asymmetric faction has gone before. In this 4X game featuring a unique dice flicking mechanism for movement and combat. Gabe relaunched this and it funded in less than 12 parasecs. I believe that's 12 hours. There's 17 days to go. This project goes through the 4th of January. They've reached their goal, and we show up in that update. An awesome first 12 parasecs right above the picture of the alien Santa Claus. By the way, Natural Selection by Sentient Games will be on Kickstarter through Monday the 7th of January. Last but not least is our most famous Kickstarter out there, the one from We're Not Wizards. It's called We're Not Wizards Tabletop Podcast Gluten-Free Biscuit Fund, and we as well will show up in this update. But first, it's a tabletop podcast with interviews, chat, Scottish people, and no wizards. Some wizards possibly. and we need gluten-free biscuits. So we show up on this update, the recent one, number 7. No, let me tell you about me for a minute, in which I interview him, and we're the first thing he talks about in that update, as well as telling us about some other projects that are currently on Kickstarter, such as is Terminus Breach. And in this episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, we'll also touch a little bit more on Richard from We're Not Wizards' fandomhood or popularity, or how famous he really is. So you'll want to stay tuned so we can hear all about Terminus Breach and the fame that is Richard Simpson. But you really want to find out about Terminus Breach and how it's finally, in its 3rd rendition, reached that plateau of funding on Kickstarter and going towards a stretch goal. You get on the ride, and let's go ahead and join this interview with myself and Matt, already in progress, shall we?
Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Welcome, General, to the Empire of Arcadium. There's the ancient Winwood, home to the elves and treefolk, mighty Torvik, stronghold of the dwarves, shining Mercer, city of the humans and magnificent Harmodia, imperial seat and the last bastion of defence before Terminus Valley and the savage nation of Drac. General, there's been a call to arms. Bent on destruction, hordes of evil Draka have breached the Terminus and are even now flowing towards us in an avalanche of death. Your army is ready and waiting for you. Let's ride out to meet them! Can you survive all 15 waves to successfully defend your homeland? Back and share the Kickstarter today!
Does that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but this is the story of Terminus Breach, tower defense board game that's currently on Kickstarter, finishing up. It's already crossed over the 48-hour mark. By the time you hear this, it'll probably be around 40 hours or less, depending on when you're listening. And tonight we're lucky enough to have on the creator mastermind behind Terminus Breach, tower defense board game. Is that correct, Matt? Is that how you fall in line with Terminus Breach?
Yeah, I mean, it's my baby. If you want to say creator and mastermind, that's a good way to go. You can use any label you want.
Well, there you go. Yeah, as long as it's gotten funded as it has done now, or it's reached that funding goal.
Absolutely. It's a really, literally a dream come true.
Awesome. Yeah, last time we had you on, I think we had you on during the first campaign. Is that right? Because this is not the first time.
Right. It was the first campaign back in March.
Interesting. And it says, so what all has changed? Maybe somebody hasn't listened to the last episode. Wait, before we get into that, just in case they haven't listened to your previous episode, let's rewind a little bit if we could. How did you get into playing tabletop board games, Matt?
Playing tabletop games? Oh man, I've been a gamer as long as I can remember. You know, I mean, I always loved reading and drawing, and I got into fantasy when I was real young, and then started playing Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, and that led to everything else, you know. And I still read fantasy and play games. I just, you know, it's a much broader world now, but I've been gaming always.
And do you have a current favorite game?
You know, my old classic favorite game is Seven Wonders, but I have just recently been playing Lords of Waterdeep, and I really love that game. You know?
I played Seven Wonders Duel, but not actually Seven Wonders. So Lords of Waterdeep, per se, somebody maybe heard of that or hasn't heard of it. What can you tell us about that game, Matt?
Well, what's funny is that I generally don't like worker placement games, but Lords of Waterdeep is at its heart a worker placement game. You use meeples to move around, and it goes in phases. There's like 7 phases, and different things happen. But what I love about it is, so you basically just assign workers to wherever you can, and you get bonuses, and depending on where they are, different things happen every round. But you're playing a character, and that character has hidden goals. So it's basically victory points based. And at the end, you calculate up your total victory points. So whatever character you have, nobody else knows. And so you'll be playing a certain way because you'll get bonuses for playing that certain way. And somebody else might think that they're winning, but if you played your character more accurately, then at the end you'll actually have more victory points because of that. So, and then there are all these missions and cards and things. I just really love it. I love all the options of playing. And it's set, like I said, I've been reading fantasy since I was a little kid, and Dragonlance was one of the first ones. Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms, and Waterdeep is a city in the Forgotten Realms universe. So it's really cool to get back into that for me. There's like dark elves and stuff like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's asymmetric. Everybody has their own way of play, but nobody else knows the different ways.
Right, but everything on the board is available to everybody. But basically you get quests and that you have to, or missions that you have to, that you have to do, and then you get bonuses for, and you get more workers to do more things. So it's really fun. I've never played the same game twice. I really love something I love about Seven Wonders and Lords of Waterdeep is that you don't know who wins until the very end. And Terminus Breach is very much that same way. It's one of my favorite mechanics in games. Because if I know who's winning, I'm a really analytical person, and when I'm playing board games, if I can see on the board who's winning, it changes how I play. But if I don't know who's winning, despite what the board looks like, then it frees me up to just play my game.
Awesome, but it sounds like you did do something with the mechanic at least. Per se, somebody hasn't listened to our previous episodes. What can you tell us about Terminus Breach, the tower defense board game?
Yeah, well, Terminus Breach it's a true tower defense board game. So I've been working on this game for 8 years now, about 8 years, and what my mission the entire time has been to translate the experience of playing a tower defense game, because I love tower defense games on my phone and online. I love tower defense games. I love the genre, but there's no real way to experience that in a board game. And so that was what I was trying to do, is trying to boil down that experience and make it playable, so that when you sit with other people at a board, play a tower defense game, and feel like you just played a tower defense game. So that's what Terminus Breach is. It's phase-based. There's a modular map and path that you can change every time. There are characters that you play. So there are 4 different races available and 3 different classes, so 12 characters that you can choose from. And yeah, basically there are 15 waves, and it's split into 5 battles of 3 waves each. In every battle, you get a new deck of bad guys that come out. Their cards get a new deck of bad guys that come out. And they get bigger and stronger and faster as the game goes on. So you're basically just trying to survive to kill them all before they make it to the end of the path. Any of them that make it off the end of the path, they get through your defenses into your homeland, and they raise the panic level. And basically, if the panic level ever reaches 10, then the Emperor recalls the armies and you've lost the game. So it's a semi-cooperative game is what it is. You're all playing against the board, but you do play for victory points.
So during play testing, Matt, was there anything you had to cut because it just wouldn't work for Terminus Breach?
Oh man, most things. It's actually been this really amazing experience when I zoom out and look at the whole thing. So for probably for most of the time, I'd say probably 5-6 years, my MO was cutting things out. Like I had an idea of how I wanted to make things work, and then I would make things work, and then I would pare it down to its simplest form. And doing that, I had to eliminate a lot of ideas that I really wanted in the game. But the main challenge of turning something like a digital game into an analog board game is not being bogged down, not having to be too fiddly or have a lot of downtime. A lot of things that people have to do to upkeep the game instead of just enjoying their experience playing the game, right? So I sacrificed a lot of things that I wanted in the game for the sake of efficiency, so that people could really just experience playing the game and have fun playing the game. And then at some point, I found a nice balance where it was moving fast enough and it was smooth enough, and it was working. And that was kind of when I started making real prototypes and taking it to conventions and really doing all that. And I kept it that way for a long time. Then I launched my first campaign after we talked last time. And back then it was 1 to 3 players. There were only 3 races, and I got a lot of feedback about the game, and people were specifically asking for a lot of stuff that I had eliminated later on. So then my challenge became, how do I reintroduce this into what I've made now, and not upset what I have? And so I did that in between my first and second campaign. I added a 4th race, which is Tree Folk, which added poison counters and slow counters, so 2 new mechanics into the game. I also added the bosses, so there's a boss for each battle now that comes out, and the bosses fight back. So that was one of the things that really hurt to eliminate from the game. Was I wanted the Draka to both, those are the bad guys, are the Draka. I wanted them to both interact with each other and sort of fight back, be able to fight back in a way. And I had to eliminate that earlier on because that's just too much upkeep, right? But then everybody was asking for bosses, and I found a way that I can put Draka back in there that affect other Draka and fight back in ways. So that's what the bosses do. So it's been this really cool like swing where I spent so many years eliminating a lot of my favorite ideas, and then after that first campaign, slowly putting them back in because that's what people were asking for. And now it plays so smoothly because of that, and it's got most of those cool ideas in there. There are still lots on the shelf that will come with expansions and things like that, but yeah, to tell you the truth, I've had that experience more than anything else, is cutting things out that I want in the game. Yeah.
Well, that's good that you're able to add someone back. So when you say that people were commenting and telling you they wanted to get that other player or whatnot, how did that go about? Did they comment on your first Kickstarter, or how did they let you know?
Yeah, well, basically I canceled my first Kickstarter because it was clear that we weren't going to make it. And when I sort of started taking steps to that, so when I went into that first Kickstarter, I had 3 plans of how it was going to go. Either we were going to succeed and do well, and I had a plan for that, or we were just going to barely fund, and I had a plan for that, or we were going to not fund, and I had a plan for that. So when it became clear that we were not funding, I started heading down that path. And one of the main things on that path was to take advantage of the community that I had built around the game during that campaign and get a lot of feedback about it, and go to the Facebook groups and get a lot of feedback about, why didn't my campaign work? What can I add in order to make this, what can I do? And a lot of the feedback was resounding, where multiple people said the same things. So things like adding in a 4th player was just exactly that. Having bosses were that, having a new mechanic like poison and slow, people really were asking for those things. So
cool. And where did you you said you build a community and stuff, so if, say, somebody else is in a similar situation or boat, where did you get that feedback? Did you go in Facebook groups, or getting a hold of your backers that were on the first campaign, or how did you go about doing that, Matt?
Yeah, yes, all of the above. Building a community for something like this, there is no one way to do it. You have to have a diverse portfolio. So when I went about soliciting feedback, it was in the Facebook groups, it was on my personal Facebook page, it was on my email list that I had built in my pre-marketing up to my campaign, and the people that had signed up during the campaign. It was to my current the backers of that campaign. I reached out to industry folks that I had been introduced to and asked them personally for advice. I just, anywhere I could, any kind of suggestion I could get, that's what I was looking for, because the goal was to succeed in the long run, right? To make this dream happen.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and so glad that it's finally happened for you. So in changing it looks like your Kickstarters have changed a little bit here and there. I want to say the first funding goal was $30,000, and then the next funding goal was $19,750, which it looks like you might have just barely missed. And then this current one, it's gone up. It was a $21,750, and you've surpassed that. What, besides the funding goal? Well, no. First, before we do that, why the different changes in the funding goal? If you don't mind us asking.
No, I don't mind at all. It's really interesting to sit back and look at it. It just, I was just rolling with what needed to happen. What I realized after the first campaign is that 30,000 was too much to ask for. And it was basically just my naivete. I was coming in new. I'm doing this entire game myself, right? So everything about the game I've made. I'm doing all the art myself. I'm a graphic designer by trade, so I'm doing all the design on it. So everything. So what I was trying to do my first time was recoup some of my costs that I had sunk into it personally, right? And coming in my first time, I really hadn't made enough connections in the industry to get good deals. I just was not doing some things the right way, and all of that led to a higher goal, right? So 30,000 was reasonable for what I was thinking at the time, but I sort of had the wrong idea going into it. When I relaunched that second campaign, I managed to learn enough in the 8 months in between that I managed to save enough money on the game itself, because I eliminated a lot of things, and I made the actual entire game a fair bit smaller, like 12% smaller, and that saved a lot of money on the manufacturing costs. I streamlined some things on the back end, and I accepted the fact that what I've put into this game cannot have a dollar amount, and it's silly to try and think about paying myself back for that. Like, I get my dream made, right? And I get all the copies left over after the campaign. So it's going to work out just fine, right? I needed to just get over that one. So I cut that out, and streamlining it, all the other finances made it so that I could. So then my goal was on that second campaign was to find the absolute minimum that I could have my game manufactured for, right? And that was 19,750. All told, if I got 19,750, it was realistic. I could get my game manufactured. But then what happened on the second campaign is I was faced with the reality at the end of the campaign that we might just barely make that. We might make, like, just like 19,800.
And then you're going to have to give Kickstarter 10% and plus pay shipping, huh?
Well, that was all accounted for. I'm fine with that. But what it didn't leave me is any kind of buffer. But really, really what happened is I was faced with the reality that when I was looking for the cheapest price possible, what I was asking for was the thinnest cards. A folded and cut paper insert in my box, the thinnest board, right? That's what I was asking my manufacturer for, and they gave me those prices. Then when it became real, that this dream that I've been working for 8 years for, and that I built this huge community around, that everybody's really excited about, that might be the product that I deliver them, it turned out unacceptable to me, So I canceled that campaign right before we funded. And I went back to the drawing board, and I said, like, look, I learned a whole big, huge lesson here. And the lesson is, don't go for the cheapest price possible. Go for the cheapest price that you're willing to let your game be made at. There is a minimum quality. That's what I realized. I need to have a certain quality of cards in this game. A folded and cut paper insert for almost 700 components will not do. You know what I mean? It's got to be something better. It's got to, at the very least, be a molded plastic insert. So what I did this third time, I canceled that campaign. I told everybody, I got to redo some finances real quick, but I'm coming back in just a few days. And I did. I relaunched for this quick 10-day campaign, and I brought everybody back into this new campaign. And that's why the goal is a couple thousand higher, because I just integrated all those things that I had as stretch goals, those quality upgrades I just integrated them into the cost. So now it minimum comes with really nice cards with linen finish. Very minimum, it's going to have a sturdy box and a sturdy board. All of that it's going to have a plastic molded insert. That's all just included in the game now. I'm not hoping for stretch goals to make that happen. So that's kind of the short way around why my funding goals changed that way.
Yeah, awesome. It makes sense. And you said you came back a couple days later. Like, how long would you say it was off of Kickstarter before you launched with this 10-day campaign?
It was 10 days. I took 10 days off, and then I came back for 10 days.
Okay, interesting. And I don't know if they give you that kind of data, or if you have any of that kind of data, do you know how many backers have come along each ride, I guess?
I would have to go back and cross-reference. I could find out, but many. I would say most. A large percentage of the backers that I have now are from the first campaign. It was really, I don't know, touching to me. It was really special to me to have everybody come back for this third campaign that was there for the second campaign, because we did it. You know what I mean? We were gonna do it. It was gonna fund, and that was really incredible. And then honestly, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life, was canceling that campaign. It was such a surreal experience to pull the rug out right before I was actually going to do what I've been trying for 8 years to do. But there was such a clear path to doing it better, for me.
Hey, yeah, it looks like they'll get a better product, and you'll have a better game under your belt.
Yeah, better for me, and then I can deliver a game to the backers that they deserve. I can deliver to them the game that when they open it, they're going to be like, yeah, look at this game. It's beautiful. There are no cardboard tokens in my game. Do you know that? It's all wooden tokens. It's all screen printed wooden tokens.
Oh, wow. And it looks like there's even a chance to get some miniatures as well if they wanted.
Yeah, you can have them 3D printed just as part of the campaign. I'm sitting here holding my production copies right now. They're really great. Or I'm just giving the STL files for the sculpts to every backer in the campaign. So even if you back for $1, you can have the STL files. And if you have the means, then print out your own, and then you can make them whatever size you want or anything.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. So you're glad that even though it took 3 times, the third time is a charm, I guess, in this case?
It is, yeah. It's just really, it was the second time that was the charm. It was the second time that was the charm. It just wasn't quite right. This third time is just getting it just perfectly right from everything that we learned the first time and the second time. And so much happened during that second campaign. I introduced new pledge levels. I came up with new ideas. I continued to solicit backer feedback, and backers have the most amazing ideas. So many of these people know so much more about what I'm trying to do than I do. So if I open myself up to their suggestions, the things that come through are unbelievable. They're things I never would have thought of. So that at the end of that was another thing about that last campaign, is at the end of it, it was so much better than it had started out as 30 days earlier. That when we relaunched this third campaign, all that stuff was just in place. We had pledge levels ready for everybody for what they wanted. These having the miniatures be printed for you as part of the campaign came from a backer in the second campaign. For that actually owns it is Tom Anders from Impact Miniatures. So he backed my first campaign and messaged me and was like, "Hey man, we could probably work something out." But then it took us a while to figure it out, to actually get, and we didn't actually get it locked down until almost the end of the last campaign, and that was a shame. I ended up having a lot of backers be like, "Man, if you could have offered that earlier, that would have been a lot better for the campaign," So it was part of why we decided to reboot, And when we rebooted, that was just a pledge level, was have them made right off the bat, and it's one of the more popular pledge levels we have. So definitely everybody wanted that,
Yeah, I was going to ask, a lot of people went for the miniatures then?
Very much, yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Because now there's actually an all-in pledge where you can get the game itself, you can get 60 metal coins to play with, you can get an oversized neoprene mat to play on, and you can get the 3D printed miniatures, all inclusive in one pledge level. So a lot of people are choosing that.
And what else changed? I want to say, I don't remember the first video, but I don't remember Richard Simpson from We're Not Wizards being part of the audio. Has your Kickstarter video changed at all over the course?
Yep, that happened. That was one of the big things that happened between the first and second campaign. One of the things that I had to do is I sunk a lot of money from myself, my family, and a couple of investors that I have into that first campaign. And some things worked and some things didn't, but you don't really know until you try. And I got a lot of feedback about where to spend money and learned a lot. And so on the second campaign, I went back and redid things a little differently with the budget that I had. And one of the things that I really invested some money in was the video. That was a lot of feedback that I got, was you need to have a really sweet video. And I just was watching a lot more campaigns videos, and I wanted it to be up to par. I wanted it to look professional. My other one was sort of bootstrapped. I did the voiceover. It was just sort of, it was not great, But then this one, I decided to really invest in, professional voiceover and professional animation. So I've been working with Daniel Zayas as a Kickstarter consultant, and I kind of just mentioned to him, like, "Hey, I don't know if you know anybody that does voiceover," but he said, "Yeah, what kind of voiceover?" And I was like, "Well, I was honestly thinking like a Scottish voice, maybe somebody, I don't know, something like Billy Connolly or something like that." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll put the word out." So he put the word out, and like, within an hour and a half, we had a lead on Richard. And so Daniel hooked us up, and me and Richard, we just kind of hit it off right away. And he agreed to do it for me, and it just sounds awesome. It was so much fun to work with him, and I love how it turned out. It's exactly what I wanted. He sent me 37 minutes of raw material at the end to cut down into that.
Yeah, didn't he say he had like 20 takes or something or another?
Oh yeah, easily 20. There were 37 minutes. It was crazy. Easily 20 takes. It was so much fun. I just sat just to listen to him do the same lines over and over again for 37 minutes is a riot. You wouldn't think it would be entertaining, but I laughed the entire first time that I listened to it.
Awesome, yeah, for sure. We just had, because things kind of got switched around with you guys reaching your funding goal. We actually had him on the show yesterday, in fact, and yeah, awesome. And he said he wasn't famous, but I think he's famous. So, and it sounds like, according to
I think he's famous too.
there you go. So it's not just me, you, and I forget who else it was, but yeah. So he sounds like he is famous, even though he wants to deny it.
Yeah, he's a humble guy. I think he will deny it to the end. But here's the thing: every time I mention that it's him that did my voiceover, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I know him. He's great," Or so a lot of people are just picking it out and messaging me and being like, "Is that Richard from We're Not Wizards?" That's because only when he gets calm and starts doing the kind of the technical aspects, he starts to sound like himself. In the beginning part and the end, he's yelling like Billy Connolly, and doesn't sound so much like himself. But
yeah, for sure. So that was cool that you're able to get him. That's awesome. Now, per se, somebody else, like we talked about, they're going through the whole Kickstarter and stuff, and they're getting kind of down on themselves because maybe it didn't fund the first time. Any advice for people that are struggling out there with something like this?
I think the biggest thing is exactly what we've been talking about, is just soliciting feedback and listening. I mean, I sort of had a leg up because I'm a graphic designer, right? And I've been a graphic designer for like a decade. And as a graphic designer, you can't not take feedback, right? It's something I have a degree in graphic design, and it's something that we practiced in class my entire time going through school, was learning to give and take feedback, right? So when I went into this whole process, I'm good to go. Like you can't hurt my feelings by giving me feedback about my game, even if it's like, I don't like your game, it's terrible. I'm like, cool, that's right. Thanks for the feedback, because now I know, there's something to that, and it's hard. It's hard. It's not something that I don't think a lot of people do naturally. It's something you really have to learn. It's something you have to bend your will towards, is to not take things personally, because what people are criticizing is something that came from your soul, from your brain. You know what I mean? It's something that you created. It's like a baby. You know what I mean? You made this thing. It didn't exist in the world until you thought it up and made it. And then here's somebody that doesn't know anything about anything telling you it's trash. You know what I mean? But what is real gold is if you can hear that person tell you that it's trash and find something of value in that. If you can say like this type of person or something about this person's experience, if you can not take offense that they told you it was trash and dive more with more in-depth questions into why they think it's trash, then you're really going to learn some stuff. Take that stuff to the bank. That's what really matters, because all those people are doing is helping you define your dream into something that everybody wants. There's no way that one person can figure out how to appeal to the masses. You have to garner information from the masses to find out what they want, and then deliver that. And there's a way to have that be still your vision and your unique thing, and have it appeal to everybody. So I think that's the biggest thing, is like, if it hasn't succeeded, look, I've been saying since this happened, since I didn't succeed that first time, since I had to cancel that first campaign, that was the singular best thing to ever happen to my game. Was to not make that first campaign, because it's so much better. It's so much bigger. It's so much better. And now with this new campaign, it's so much better than ever I could have done. Because of the community involvement, things have happened in this campaign that I never would have thought would happen in my game, but it's so much better for it.
Awesome. Yeah, constructive criticism can quite help, but I hear a lot of people it's hard to take it. I'm one for constructive criticism because, like you said, you can learn a lot, so that's awesome.
Well, but it doesn't even have to be. I think constructive criticism is kind of a misnomer. It can just be criticism. That's the trick, is like, whether it's constructive or not is up to you. It's not up to the person giving you the criticism. Yeah, it's how you take it. That's what matters, you know.
Okay, yeah, how you take it, huh? That makes sense. Well, that's good, yeah, and now you like you said, it paid off, and now you're coming back with this final campaign, and it funded last night, and now it's in the running to finish up on the Kickstarter. By the time people hear this, depending on when it comes out, right now there's about 43 hours left, so it'd be somewhere around 40 hours or so, depending on when they decide to listen or they hear it. So they have through Thursday. So through today's Tuesday. So they have through Thursday, the 20th of December at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So they can go ahead and become part of the reality that will be Terminus Breach Tower Defense board game.
And the fact of the matter is like, I'm not creating a game company. I'm not going to make a ton of games. I don't know if I'm going to find retail deals or distribution deals for this game. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So if you are into this game, get in on the Kickstarter. That's, I can't guarantee that you're going to get a game any other way.
Okay, so per se, somebody's been listening and they haven't gone and checked out the Kickstarter page. With all the games out there on Kickstarter, what makes your game pop or stand out as one my audience should go check out and then back if they like what they see, Matt?
I mean, it all depends on what they're into. If you like tower defense games at all and you like board games, this is the game for you. I mean, even if you sort of like tower defense games and you love board games, then go check this out. You'll have a lot of fun playing the tower defense aspect of it. If you back projects because of creator passion, this is the one for you. You know what I mean? It's just me. I'm just a one man. Me and my wife. Really, it's just my dream. Like I said, I'm not making a company. I'm a graphic designer. That's already what I do. This is just my baby, was to make this happen. I'll probably expand it, and I will expand it now that we've funded. I can confidently say that I will expand this game. But that's kind of neat. That's the first time I've gotten a chance to say that. So that felt good,
There you go. You heard it here first on Getting Geeky with Gamerly.
That's right.
Awesome. Now, mine is coming to your hometown to stalk you. How would people go about keeping up with you or the expansion of Terminus Breach, Matt?
I have an email list that you can enter on terminusbreach.com. Just go ahead and put your email there, and it'll pop up. Also info@terminusbreach.com, and we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, so you can pretty much find me anywhere. And I try to be as transparent and available as possible, so just reach out, get a hold of me.
Awesome. Now, per se, somebody snoozes and loses, will there be a late pledge option, do you think?
I think so. I mean, like I said, I don't have any deals in place yet, but I am going to try and give everybody an option. Try and give people as many options as possible to get into the game. So I will say right now that there's nothing 100% in place for that. But I also can't see any reason that I wouldn't do that. But don't rely on that. Like, don't sleep to get in. I have a $1 pledge level, so if you're thinking about it at all, just get in on the $1 pledge level, and I will have a pledge manager, so you can upgrade then. That's the way to do it, is just to get in for $1, and then.
Awesome. And like you said, if they do get in for that $1, they can still get the files if they want to print their own boss miniatures.
That's right. You do get the STL files, yep. And access to the pledge manager. Yep.
So that's awesome. Now, we don't want to keep you all day, especially we want to hurry and get this episode up so people can have a chance, if they haven't heard about Terminus Breach, that they'll be able to check it out. But we really appreciate you taking time out of your day, especially with how busy it's got to be that last 48 hours of the Kickstarter, to come on Getting Geeky with Gamerleaf. We really appreciate it, Matt.
I really appreciate it. Thanks. It feels really cool to have come full circle. I mean, it was a long time ago that we talked. It's neat to have this conversation, revisiting what's happened since then.
For sure, most definitely. But yeah, we really appreciate it. We'll let you get back to the last 44 hours of the Kickstarter.
Sounds good. It looks like we're getting really close to unlocking our latest social stretch goal, which is voting for 5 new Draka on the Board Game Geek page. So it looks like we're getting pretty close to that. So I probably should go pay attention just in case we unlock that.
Awesome. And they can do that. How can they participate? Maybe they don't have any money, but they want to participate. How can they do that social stretch goal or help out with that?
So there's we have a page for Terminus Breach on BoardGameGeek.com. You can go there and go to the forums, and I have basically started a thread with a forum. that I list out the Draka that are in the game, and I'm soliciting ideas for 5 new Draka to put in the game. So if you have a new idea for a bad guy that you want in the game that you think would be cool, go in and reply to the thread and put your idea in there. If you see somebody else's idea while you're scrolling through the thread that you really like, then go on and put a reply that you know you're voting for this one. Once I have 50 replies, then I'll choose 5 out of those that have been submitted. And yeah, we're getting really close. It's been really good, especially since we funded. There's been a lot. This last 48 hours been heating up a lot. Last I checked, I think we were at 44. So we only need a few more comments before it's time to pick 5 and add them to the game. Come up with a new social stretch goal.
Awesome. Well, we'll let you get to those Board Game Geek comments and voting and whatnot. But we really appreciate you coming on the show with us today, Matt.
Great, thanks. I appreciate it.
No problem. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Matt. If you're looking at doing a Kickstarter and it hasn't been successful the first time, it may not be the worst news yet. Go ahead and learn from your criticism that you've gotten and make it better, like Matt did. If you're listening and the Kickstarter's still alive, hopefully you're listening right away, then go ahead and jump on over. Show a little bit of support to Matt by backing this Kickstarter. At the time of this recording, there's only about 40 hours left, so it's getting down to the wire. So don't miss out on Terminus Breach, the tower defense board game. And if you don't want to even be in a situation like this where you're hearing about this episode too late, make sure you're subscribed at Getting Geeky with Game Relief on your favorite podcast catchers or at GameReliefGo.com so you never miss an episode again. This is our usual Thursday episode, but we're releasing it a day early so you can go ahead and get in on the fun that is Terminus Breach before it's too late. Hopefully we'll be bringing you some reviews this Saturday. But it's our least favorite time, your least favorite time for us to get on with our lives, time for you to get on with yours. In the meantime, I hope you'll get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others in the geekfold. This has been Game Relief, and I am out of here.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.